Hey everybody, I'm Marcus Hazelwood, and welcome to Clear Haze Exchange. I'm an energy engineer with over 15 years of experience in sustainability and energy efficiency consulting. Many find these topics a little complex, so I created Clear Haze Exchange to help provide clear, actionable insight, clearing the haze, so to speak. We'll cover plenty of topics under the umbrella of energy efficiency and sustainability. Let's get into today's conversation. Welcome, listeners, to Season 2 of Clear Haze Exchange, focused on the hidden systems and unintended consequences behind facility and infrastructure decisions. In this episode, we're going to talk with Tom Melton. He has firsthand experience around data centers. He is a facilities and operations engineer with over 30 years of trades and 15 years in mission-critical data center environments. He has worked on both the contractor and owner-operator sides of industry and has spent more than a decade responsible for 24/7 uptime, emergency response, staffing, and training in complex facilities. Tom, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you. Could you explain a little bit about yourself?
Well, my background, I started in the HVAC industry in the mid to late 80s. Did a lot of commercial AC, did early control work, worked on commercial, what would be considered general commercial sites for the most part. Around 1992, I went for work for a company in Dallas that had found a niche process at the time that worked primarily on phone rooms in the early part of data centers. It's when the data centers weren't third party, it was all in-house, where they had their own servers in their own offices. And I've evolved with the industry quite a bit. I did it from the construction side until 2008, and then I went to work after the 2008 bust. I made a lateral move and started working on the data center side. So my background on the mechanical side, I started with data centers and phone rooms in the early 90s. I've seen the progress we've made. I've seen staffing issues. And a lot of what I wanted to talk about today with you, we've talked about, is the staffing issues of the trades and the data center industry and what the challenges we're facing is.
Good. Yeah, I'm looking forward to diving into that because it's a really important topic right now, especially with the increase in data centers with AI. I think this is a very relevant topic to discuss. So you've said in our coordination and communications as we were working to get this conversation set up that the next few weeks at that time will be a blur because of the staffing coverage. What does that alone tell you about the current state of data center operations? And really, why do you think it's important to bring awareness to this topic?
Well, the first thing is people don't realize is that we're 24/7 staffed. The facility I'm in right now will be a 24 megawatt facility when it's fully built out. We have an engineering staff of 12 engineers, 4 leads, 2 chiefs, and then 1 data center manager. We are required to have 1 lead and at least 1 other engineer on site 24/7. So my busyness during the holidays was having to be a lead on site and having 1 or 2 of my people there on my shift as well as the other shifts. So that was holiday driven. This data hall that we're in now is a new construction. We went live in July of last year. We had to put on a full staff, 12 engineers, 4 leads, two chiefs, and then our manager. Well, what we did as a company is we pulled our MDCO was a chief engineer at another site in town. The 2 chiefs were promoted up from lead positions at other sites. And then the staff of engineers, we had, I think, 3 or 4 that we brought from other sites, and then the rest was new hires. And then we had to do an onboarding process and then also try to teach the technical part of the new control systems, the new technology of the HVAC, the electrical controls, the new fire system. So you're having to teach them, in this case, 2 sets of company rules, our company and the client, plus the technical side of all the new equipment that's the latest and newest versions.
Wow, that's a lot. So from your perspective, how severe is the staffing shortage in data center engineering overall?
It's a very tough battle, and it's going to get a lot worse. The issue that you have And I'm going to start from the trade side and work our way up. For every one person coming up, we're losing, depending on where you read, 4 to 6 retirees. And we're in an industry right now, with the data center boom, we're a very specialized field of HVAC. We're a specialized field of electrical. We're a specialized field of control work. And we're having to pay top money to pull people into our field from the trades. And it's a hard sell because your trade service people, a good service technician, either be an electrician, plumber, what have you, they will make easily mid six figures now for let me clarify that, mid 100,000s. A good electrician, HVAC guy will base around 100,000 with the overtime and the hours they work will make 140, 150, 160. So a very good technician, you're going to have a hard time pulling them into a data center deal or a data center environment. Only way you're going to do it is that you're going to have to you find the ones that, well, like myself, that are a little bit older, who doesn't want to put in the 40, the 50, 60, 70, 80-hour weeks you do as a technician. So this is almost like a semi-retirement program for me. My average when I was in the field in the AC side was 55 to 60-hour weeks. I did that for, well over 20 years.
So would you say around that challenge is one of the big misconceptions that executives or developers have about how easy it is to just hire a qualified staff?
Definitely, because the understaffing is twofold. You have understaffing in body count where you may need a site where we might need 4 engineers and a lead or a chief. We might only have 2 or 3 because we can't get 4 people. And that's the obvious, easy understaffing to clarify is when you need 4 people and you have 3. The other problem is, though, is you may need 4 people who are qualified, and you may have 1 or 2 qualified of the 4, but the other 2 may be very weak fundamentally and need to be groomed and trained. So while you may meet your staffing requirement of 4 people, it's really 2 people and 2 helpers or 2 apprentices that you hope that you can groom and grow before something unravels and exposes the weakness.
You kind of alluded to the exposes. How does understaffing quietly increase the risk even when the system reliability hasn't failed yet?
There is a lot of hidden risk that just it comes from experience in whatever field you're from. As a service tech in HVAC, I can walk down a data hall full of the crack units, and I can pick up on how compressors sound. I can pick up on how the fans sound because I've been around it for 20, 30 plus years. People who don't have that experience will walk by and will not, they may hear a bearing shrill. They may hear a compressor whine and go, and that sounds odd, but they don't understand that sounding odd is the first step of a progress that could become something. And what we've done as an industry is we've invested a lot of money into our building management system where we get a lot of nuisance alarms because they want the alarms to raise the red flags so that we can hopefully find the issue before it starts a catastrophic snowball effect.
That makes sense. So if you were advising an owner or planning a new data center, what staffing questions should they be asking before breaking ground or bringing on their staff?
Well, there's several different routes that you can go with. Being in Dallas, we're a major metropolis, so we have advantages. We have the vendor support that they wouldn't have it when you get further out. If you have a site in a metropolitan area like we do, our switchgear vendor has local service people on staff. Our crack people has local vendors on staff. So a large part of what we do as engineers on site, our main concern is to make something stable until we can get a vendor on site. What is interesting to see is a lot of these new data centers that are being built. There's one being built in Abilene. It's going to be state of the art. There's several out in West Texas that are in Sweetwater. There's some in Childress. Well, your vendor support is Amarillo, Lubbock, or Dallas, which is all 2 to 3, 4 hours away. So the first thing is going to be, where am I building my data center, and what's my vendor response going to be? Am I going to have to try to hire people that know more than just how to keep it stable until we can, and maybe can do the repairs in house versus waiting on the vendors to bring them in? And to do that, you're going to have to pay enough for the people who know how to do it to want to live in Childress, Sweetwater, Abilene, um, to go
which
that
are
route.
more challenging areas to live in.
Absolutely. And it's the talent base. We don't have enough talent in the big cities, and you're wanting to bring people who understand UPSs, major switchgear, major large technical HVAC into an area that doesn't have it and hasn't had it. So you have to import the talent as well to at least start building your base.
So this kind of takes us into the training side and the marketing versus the reality. Many companies might advertise training pipelines and career paths, but from your experience, is this advertising that's out there effective to recruit long-term employees?
That is $1 million question, Marcus, and I wish I had a good answer to it. There is a very unique problem in the trades, and it's frustrating on so many different levels. I think, in all fairness, the upper management, they have very good intentions, and upper management, most every company is doing it on some level. We need to start growing our own talent, and they'll send out a survey or a program that says, okay, we're going to hire in apprentices, entry level people. They have different terms for it, but we're going to bring them in, and we're going to start training them in what we do on site, and we're going to start building this. And on paper, it's a great system, and they'll even have checklists and programs and all this. So at the executive level, it's a great, the framework is there. The problem is that you're dealing with technical people, and I'm going to make some stereotypical statements here, and I'm going to probably irk a few people when I say this, so I'm the bad guy, I'll say it. But a lot of people who go into the trades do so because they're not strong administratively. They go into the trades because they have mechanical aptitude. They're very good with electrical. They're very good with plumbing. They're very good with HVAC. They have a great mechanical aptitude. It was always a joke in the trade about, a plumber, you can buy a shovel and become president of a company, because once you buy your shovel, you can go in business for yourself. You don't have to have the business acumen with it. And it's kind of a problem is you bring people up who are very solid technically, and you put them in a managerial role, but you don't give them the managerial tools to understand the big picture. It's like the administrative people understand it, because from an administrative standpoint, they understand we've got to have people, we've got to grow them, but they hand it down to people in chief. I don't want to say probably from chief down. By the time you get past up higher than a chief, it starts to become more managerial. But these are people who, when they was in the field, a lot of them have the fear of teaching their helpers and their apprentices, and the fear that I teach them too much, they'll replace me. And you have this mindset that's always, okay, I want my helpers decent, but I want to keep them below me level-wise. And when the training comes down, a lot of the training, well, we'll let them, they'll learn it best by being around it. And they expect the level who needs to do the teaching isn't being monitored and isn't being supported and held accountable for the training program. Like the company that I work for now, we have a huge training program that we're supposed to go through on new hires. When you hire into our company as an engineer, you go through about 40 hours of training within the first month of our company policies, our company procedures. This is how our building works. And it looks good on paper, but the problem is they'll walk them through it. They'll teach them key phrases. It's almost like teaching the STAR system in Texas. We're going to have an assessment test. Here's the answers. Learn these answers, and voila, you're now a building engineer. And you'll know what the phrases mean, but you don't know how to apply the phrases or what it actually means. You just know what the cliche proper answers are.
Yeah. So explain then what the difference between training and a true apprenticeship is in this mission critical environment.
What we need to have, and is something, and I'm going to speak in Dallas. The only group that has a good, proper union background in Dallas area is the electricians. And the electricians do a good job. Their apprentice program is about a 4 to 5 year process. They bring them in. You're going to go to classes 1 or 2 nights a week. And I think theirs is a 4 or 5 year program to get you from apprentice to journeyman level. But they do it they do classroom, they do testing, they do work experience, and they monitor the improvement. Whereas just because you've been here 2 years doesn't mean you're automatically moved up. It's just okay, at 2 years you should know this. At 3 years you should be at this level. There's not a lot of union HVAC in Dallas to do this type program. And the data center side, it's all independent companies. I don't know of any unionized data centers in DFW. And there may be one. If I missed one, I apologize. But the training programs, there's not being teaching to it. There's not being the process. And one of the things that's fascinating, if you go look at data centers, whether you're looking at entry level, engineer level 1, 2, 3, 4, assistant chief, they're all 6 the same job descriptions, the same terminologies, the same duties. On paper, there's no visible progression. It says level 1 to level 4 to assistant chief to chief, actually up to MDCOs or managers. On paper, they all have the same job descriptions. And, there's no career path that says you should be 20% knowledge at this level, 40%. There's no standards to it. And just this last week, I heard one of my chiefs, it's above me, say to my guys, well, we hire apprentices, but we go ahead and call them E2s, so they get a couple more bucks an hour, and we just throw them in and let them learn under the title E2. So in our company that I'm in, we have engineer level 1, 2, 3, and 4, but 98% of us was all E2s. And E2s might have 2 weeks experience. They could have 20 years experience. So at that point, there's no progression as far as a plan to work up or down because there's nothing. The titles don't mean anything.
So what would you say that a real apprenticeship type of program, because you would call this more of apprenticeship within a company, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
What would be the ideal case, or what one should look like in your mind?
We need, as an industry, we need to create a mentorship. And what we need to do on that is in a perfect world or an ideal world, you're going to have, and we have in our building, we have people who are very strong on the switch gears. We have people who are strong on HVAC. We have people who are strong on the fire systems, what have you. We really need to have a program where we take these entry-level people, instead of making them be helpers and just watch, we need to get them hands-on under the supervision of these experienced people and do hands-on training of it. This is what we're looking for. This is how we do it. This is what our thought process is. It's our training process. And we need to give the people we're hiring in to learn this stuff a fighting chance and a fair chance to actually get hands-on experience. And a large part of this, probably between 50 and 75% of the problem is we have technical people put in managerial roles that don't know how to delegate and they don't have that teacher mentality and that servant mentality to get the development done.
Right. Makes sense. So kind of shifting into the public perception on what data centers are actually. So from the outside, data centers are often seen as quiet and clean and invisible, but what's missing from that picture? Are things changing in terms of how the public might be seeing data centers and this big boom of data centers, given all the resources that they do use?
I'm gonna kind of give you 2 different answers on this. True data centers we are very, very homogeneous. We blend into the background. I know in Dallas, you can drive down certain areas and past 8 data centers and not even know they're there. They're very generic tilt wall buildings. They're buildings that have no windows in them, no signage, basically. There might be a sign on the building that says, whatever the main parent company is. But to know it's a data center driving by, you really don't unless you know what to look for. You won't see a row of generators because all of them have generator yards that have 20 to 25-foot parapet walls around them to block in the noise. They're buildings that are basically tilt wall, generic. They're gray, they're soft blue, they're whatever the color the rest of the strip centers are, and they're very homogeneous, blend in, simple buildings. We had talked about, you'd asked me a topic, I brought this up because the problem is that people hear data centers, they lump everything into one group. And the group that's having issues right now, there's a couple of different categories. There are Bitcoin data mine sites. And there's one I think it's southeast of Dallas. There's actually a city trying to get it shut down because while a data center, we're environmentally set up. We have what rainwater recovery. We do everything we can to lower the cost as much as these Bitcoin mining places. They're metal buildings. They're exhaust fans. It's almost like comparing Walmart to Neiman Marcus. It's the bare bones base requirement. They have cooling towers. They have big exhaust fans. They don't have the redundancy like a data center. And this particular one down south of Dallas, people are upset with because there's this constant drone and noise. It just has a hum to it that people are complaining a mile away. They still hear this drone and this hum. And the city was trying to pass an ordinance to get it thrown out of town. That's how much they hate this particular mining site. There's another data center that's being built out east of Dallas in a town called Sulphur Springs that the whole town's in uproar about because the land that the data center people bought was land that had been donated. It used to be a coal mine site. And when they stopped coal mining, they gave that land to the city for public use. And somehow or another, that land got sold to a developer wanting to build a data center. And that created a huge turmoil because of public unrest. And then the other part of it is that the other public unrest is we consume large amounts of power. And they keep getting bigger and bigger in the power consumption. The data site I'm in now, when we get done, is going to be 24 megawatt, which is what used to be a big data center. They're building data centers now that are 300, 500, 1 gigawatt of power. And people are freaking out, especially in Texas, because we already have grid issues with power not being reliable in the heat of the summer and the cold of winter. And then we're going to add all this heat load to it, all this power consumption to it. And then the other thing is a lot of the public thinks that data centers consume a lot of water. And that's another fear they have because apparently, and I think this is more out in Arizona, New Mexico, out in the desert, they use cooling towers, they use chilled water with cooling towers that evaporate water off it. And they're using large amounts of water. In Texas, we don't do that. We use mostly air-cooled chilled water. If we do use chilled water, we don't use a lot of water. The building I'm in now, we have rainwater harvesting. We catch the rainwater off the roof, and we use it to run our toilets and our non-potable water. So people are lumping in, when they hear the term data center, they're lumping everybody in together. The data mine people that are noisy and droning, to the Arizona people that use tons of water and cooling tires. And all that.
So it's important. Yeah. So that makes sense. So it's important to understand what type of data center is being built. So someone's saying they're building a data center in our backyard or wherever it may be. It's important to understand what type of data center you're saying.
Yes, and
what
they're going to do to support it. Because the one in Sulphur Springs, for example, that the whole town is upset with it over the way the land was acquired. The actual data center, and I don't remember the company name off the top of my head. They're wanting to build a 300 megawatt data center. In the plans that they've announced, they want to build their own power station where they can generate up to 325 megawatt. So they want to build their own generating station so there'll be no draw to the grid, but they can sell back to the grid. But they're also wanting to put in solar panels and do a lot of the green energy that we do in a lot of data centers. But because of the way the land was acquired, literally the natives are wanting to go out there with a pitchfork and run them out of town. They're doing it by spreading a lot of fear, and the owners of the data center group involved has not taken the time to go and say, hold it, wait a minute, folks, let's get everybody on the same page here, because the program that they've got and what they're wanting to do is actually a very good data center, but it was just the PR and the way they handled it going in has totally turned the whole town against it. And it's a sad deal because they're talking about building 10, 30 megawatt data centers. That would be a big boost to that local economy.
What would you say are things that you wish local officials could understand before either approving data centers or to help reduce that public impact? Or is it all the responsibility of that owner or developer?
It's a hand-in-hand responsibility. People, if they don't, if you go in and answer the questions up front and present the facts, data centers, with the exception, and I'm going to put exception, air quote this, with the exception of the power we consume, we are a very green facility as much as possible. Most data centers now, we do some form of rainwater collection. The equipment we buy and put in is as efficient as possible for the data center mode. And the one good thing about data centers that if they market it right would be a big selling point. Everybody's talking about data centers go in and they suck the power off the grid and they raise power rates. The one thing people need to realize it's really beneficial is that because we are building these data centers that draw, 30, 50, 100, 300 megawatts and up, it's forcing the officials to finally have serious talks about, hey, our grid does have real issues here. We don't have enough power. And it's also forced a real discussion about, hey, windmills are great, but data centers run 24/7. We can't rely on a windmill or a solar panel. We've got to have real consistent generable power, be it. And in Texas, they're trying to push building some more nuclear power plants. They're talking about bringing some natural gas back online. But at least they're finally having a realistic discussion as, okay, renewable is great, but it's not 24/7 dependent. And hopefully, the one good thing that might come out of this is we might actually start upgrading our grid finally and building up some more generation to actually supply the power grid. And that's hopefully the positive we can come out with.
We've discussed a lot of the power, water, and grid realities. So you said this exposes a lot of issues that really have been shelved, ignored, or band-aided. So what are we finally being forced to confront?
It seems to be forcing the reality that while green energy is a great concept, we still have to have the true mechanical, dependable power source available behind it. Over the last 20 years, Texas has built huge. I think Texas is the largest provider of wind power in the U.S. right now. If you go west of Fort Worth, going from Fort Worth to Midland, Odessa, I-20 is just a huge windmill farm going west. If you go to Amarillo, once you get past Wichita Falls and up 287, it's windmills all the way to Amarillo. I-40 is windmills all the way across the Panhandle. If you go down south of Corpus, between Corpus and South Padre, there's generator fields down there. The problem we've had in the politics of Texas, everybody's pushing windmill construction, which is great. But everybody has this, it's been this mentality, all or none. Well, we're going to go all windmills and we're not going to worry about building more conventional power. And we had the deal in 2021 with the snow, and we had major grid failure. I forget how many, I think 80% of the state went black on and off for about 3 days because of not having enough power to handle it. We need to have real construction and real power. And I was blessed. One of the customers I had when I was doing HVAC work was THU back in the 90s. And they were talking about power issues back then. And they said simply they can't stack buckets of electricity on a shelf in case we need it. It's got to be available to go online immediately. And you can't stack it and store it yet. And 25, 30 years later, we still don't have the battery capacity technology to store power. And until you have a way to store it, you can't rely on a wind or solar. You've got to have power plants that are available to come online that are consistent. And especially with a data center. Data centers run 24/7. They don't shut down. It's going to force a real discussion about, okay, we've got to have true reliable power regardless.
Yeah. So moving towards the leadership and the accountability in this industry, we touched a little bit around this, but where is accountability breaking down between the developers, operators, the utilities, and municipalities? How would you say that should be addressed?
It's actually probably two or threefold. The first thing is it's the data center people themselves need to do a better job of messaging um, how the data centers run, what we do that is green friendly, how many of them are LEED certifications, what it means to be LEED certified, how we're doing to be good stewards of the land, if you will, across the board. The biggest thing is getting the knowledge out of, hey, a data center is not a bad thing, a legitimate data center. You know, I think one of the things that maybe be miscategorized is the jobs they bring in. You'll see these announcements where they're going to build a data center wherever. It's going to bring in 2,000 jobs. Well, what they're not saying, and they need to be transparent, they're bringing in 2,000 construction jobs, but once that building is finished, it may be 30 jobs or 40 jobs. And we're not going to run hundreds of thousands of gallons of water. No, it's a building, it's a warehouse, it's going to have toilets, it's going to have break rooms, but it's not going to suck hundreds of thousands of waters from the lake and the supply. The municipalities and the state needs to have their power plan figured out. It's like, hey, we've got the power to run this. It's not going to affect you as a citizen on power rates. It's not going to create more rolling blackouts. It's really fear of the unknown is a lot of what's driving the issue now.
What role should experienced field engineers like yourself play in shaping policy, planning, and sustainability discussions?
We need to be better implementing training of people in our fields and getting our talent level up. We have the same problem in data halls that they do in the trades as a whole. Until the last 2 or 3 years, and I'm starting to see it change, people thought if you went into the trades, it was because you wasn't, and on air quote, smart enough to be an office worker. You didn't have admins. Finally, in the last couple of years, people are starting to realize, hey, that auto mechanic is kind of a valuable skill to have. Hey, that plumber who can come in and fix a house, that's actually a valuable skill. And what I'm working toward doing, and I've worked with several groups, I'm trying to draw attention to, hey, these blue collar jobs everybody keeps overlooking, they pay good money. They're very solid. We need people in it. They're not going to be replaced by AI anytime soon. It's a valuable skill that's only going to get more valuable in time. It's really funny because when I went into the AC business in 1987, my dream was to make $40,000 a year. A senior tech now is making $120,000, $150,000 a year, pretty easy across the board. And the other thing that's happening is the thing it's limiting our income on the trade side is how many hours can we work? Because the work is there. There's people that you talk to all the time. I've been waiting for 2 weeks for an HVAC guy. I've been waiting a month for a plumber. I've been waiting a month for an electrician. My favorite is my car's been in the shop for 2 weeks waiting on parts. All these trades are finally getting some recognition that, hey, maybe it's a good idea to have actually people wanting to go in and learn these trades. And the job we've got to do on data centers and in the trades themselves is when we get those people that want to come into our industry, it's our job to train them and develop them so they don't get frustrated and leave before they get to be of value and productive pay for it.
So in closing, what gives you hope that the trades and data center operations can evolve?
Well, the first hope we have is that the stigma of blue collar is rapidly going away. There's people are finally seeing that there is a value to learning, and it doesn't matter if we're talking about building trades, it was electrical, plumbing, HVAC, carpentry, auto mechanics, anything that uses the hands. Welders are going that mine. Any good tradesperson right now is in high demand. You can leave wherever you're at and go anywhere you want to go, and there's going to be an opening for a job there for someone who has skill in any of those type trades. We don't have the fear of AI. AI is not going to replace a guy hanging duck in an attic. It's not going to replace the electrician running conduit. So our stability is there. The thing that we have to do with industry is to stop being a circular firing squad and taking our new people out by abusing them before they get seasoned and experience. And HVAC that's my background, so I'm going to speak about HVAC. We have a bad problem on the trade side of bringing guys in and literally working them 60, 70, 80 hours a week, burning them out to the point where they're like, I'm done with this, and they go other fields, other places. And we have construction guys now. We're having construction in our data center. I'm talking to electricians, carpenters, and they're working 48 to 60 hours a week every week, and they could work more if they wanted to because there's just not enough people going around. And the sad part of it is we're burning people out faster and we're bringing people in. So we're it's shooting ourselves in the foot by burning out people who are actually good before we can get enough people in to relieve them some.
Good insight. You probably could go on because there's so much knowledge I see that you have, but I also sense the passion that you have for wanting to get better with the way we operate data centers because it looks like there's a lot of opportunity there. It's just the need being able to bring up new trades, new professionals in this space to be able to benefit from the opportunity. But I appreciate the candid conversation. You've given our audience a lot to think about, and I certainly learned a lot myself. So hopefully the audience enjoyed this conversation. And any other thoughts you have as we depart, Tom?
Well, the only thing I'll end with this: if you're a young person who wants a career, now is the time to get into the trades, the HVAC, electrical, data centers as a whole. The technology that's coming down the pike at us is phenomenal. I cannot wait to see where we're going to be in 5 and 10 years, because on the data side, we have new servers that are tremendous, amazing amount of productivity coming out of them, and the HVAC and the electrical systems that feed them. Our technology is changing and growing rapidly. We're no longer just knuckle draggers. We're working on some of the top technology available in any industry. So it's going to be a thrilling ride the next few years.
Well, thanks again, Tom, and
you.
hope the audience enjoyed.
Sounds good. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks for listening to Clear Haze Exchange. New episodes drop every 2 weeks. You can catch Clear Haze Exchange on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, and more. Let's clear the haze about sustainability and energy efficiency together. Subscribe now and join the conversation.